Have you ever heard of a month that's believed to be literally charged with divine energy? Well, today we're diving into Vaisakhamasam, a period in the Hindu calendar that's considered incredibly sacred. So, what makes this time of year so special? Let's get into it. To really get a sense of its importance, just listen to this description from the Puranas. It's called the best of all months, a time so holy it's revered even by the gods themselves. I mean, that really sets the stage for a period of immense spiritual opportunity, don't you think? So, what's the secret? Why does this month have such an incredible reputation? Well, it all comes down to its deep, deep connection with Lord Vishnu. You know, the names themselves kind of give it away. It's often called Madhava Masam, and Madhava is another name for Lord Vishnu, so this is his absolute favorite month. And from an astronomy perspective, the name Vaishakha comes from the fact that the full moon, or Purnima, happens when the moon lines up with the Vishakha star. Pretty cool, right? And get this. The teachings about how important this month is don't just come from ancient texts or sages. The story goes that Lord Vishnu himself was the first one to explain the greatness of Vaisakhamasam to his consort, goddess Lakshmi. So this wisdom is coming straight from the source. No. All of this divine importance translates into some really specific daily practices. The spiritual journey during Vaishakha really kicks off every single morning with a simple, purifying act, the sacred bath. The whole discipline is actually pretty simple, but it's super profound. First, you've got to wake up before sunrise, which is considered a really pure and powerful time of day. Then, even if you're nowhere near a holy river, you just take a moment to remember them, like the Ganga or Godavari, to invoke their energy. And finally, you perform your sacred bath, right where you are. But why is this simple act so powerful? Well, there's this belief that during Vaisakhamasam, all the deities actually reside in the water. So that pre-dawn bath stops being just about getting clean. It becomes a deep spiritual immersion that's said to bring you to higher states of consciousness. All right, so after purification, we move on to devotion. And the practices this month show this incredible reverence for the divine that you can find in nature, especially when it comes to worshiping certain sacred plants. We see two really important forms of worship here, and each one has a totally different purpose. On one hand, you have Tulsi worship. When you offer Tulsi leaves, it's a direct act of devotion to Lord Vishnu, a way to ask for his grace and for salvation. But on the other hand, offering water to the roots of a peepal tree is an act for your ancestors, helping them find peace and liberation. Now, here's what makes Tulsi worship extra powerful during Vaishakha. There's this wonderful belief that Lord Vishnu himself actually roams the earth during this month. So any offering of Tulsi, which is his most beloved plant, becomes an incredibly direct and potent way to connect with him. But the spiritual duties don't just stop with personal rituals. They actually extend outward, into acts of compassion that are directly inspired by the season itself. Which brings us to a really practical question, right? Why is there such a huge emphasis on charity, or dana, during Vaishakha? And the answer has everything to do with the weather. So, astrologically speaking, the sun is passing through the sign of Aries, which means intense summer heat. The spiritual logic here is just beautiful. The best way to serve is to donate things that give people relief from that heat. It's all about easing the suffering of others. And the kinds of charity they recommend are so wonderfully practical. We're talking about things anyone can do, like offering cool drinking water, donating umbrellas and hand fans, or giving footwear to protect people's feet from the hot ground. And a really meritorious act is to set up a chalavendralu, basically a public stall that offers free drinking water to anybody who needs it. So we've talked about bathing, worship, and charity. How do all these different pieces fit together? Well, they actually form a complete path leading you toward the ultimate spiritual goals. Let's connect the dots between the practices and the rewards. The three core duties each bring a pretty distinct outcome. The sacred bath, or snana, is said to bring you happiness right here in this world. Devotion, or puja, helps pave the way for your spiritual salvation. And that compassionate charity, dana, earns you divine grace. It's like a complete spiritual circle. So when you follow the practices of Vaisakhamasam with real sincerity, it offers this incredibly holistic path. It's not just about what happens in the afterlife, it's about finding peace and having your desires fulfilled right here and now, all while you're working toward that ultimate goal of liberation.
We'll close this out with the sacred mantra for Lord Narayana, another name for Vishnu. It's just a powerful reminder of the divine energy that fills this entire month, and it leaves us with one final thought. How can these simple acts of purification, devotion, and compassion truly transform not just a month, but an entire lifetime?